Asia, I will pass the mic to you to start the session.
Thank you so much, Serena. It was great to have that initial dialogue with you, Marlena and Josh. I think we're going to have some fun tonight. Thank you, everybody who's in the rooms. You can see the numbers climbing. I almost fell off my chair when I asked Serena how many people are going to be here, because I was anticipating maybe a nice, cozy, intimate group of 20 of you, but not the case. So that's a great segue. I spoke with Serena. I would like, I've done these talks before, workshops, and anytime there is an opportunity to switch the structure around. Oh my gosh, I hear baby. I would love to set this our time up so that it's almost like a discussion and a dialogue rather than save all the questions. I mean, we'll take a question session at the end, but if you have any anything that you want to clarify or expand on, feel free. Serena's going to be my right-hand gal to moderate the questions. Just type them in and then she'll get my attention to stop. I think that's just going to be more effective as we go along. If that's okay with you guys, I hope to have Gladys. You're going to be my star student, I think. You're going to be interactive. And yeah, let's dive into the wonderful world of customer personas. I hope you guys are excited.
Okay, thank you.
Well, is everyone having enjoying the rest of the session so far? Whoop. All right, it's okay. To start off, I thought we would set a bit of an agenda. I'm a talker, so it's more so for myself to not go off on tangents and be effective to cover everything that we want today. And I realize I'm talking for a long time, so excuse how many times I'm going to say customer personas. I realize that there's not too many ways to describe what we're talking about tonight. But to start off, we want to cover what is a customer persona, why is it important, and then how do we create one or some of them, okay? That's gonna lead into our kind of the middle portion of our chat, and that's moving into messaging. Once we have personas, how do we then tailor them to our messaging so that to be effective? And I layered in the concept of motivations because that's what we want to increase when it comes to our audiences. I'm going to move this because it's blocking my text. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. And then up next is any business owner would be interested in obviously the return on your investment. Why do I want to spend any sort of time on building, understanding, and creating customer personas? What does it mean for my bottom line, right? And then close the loop off by talking about how to leverage them in highly effective marketing strategies and tactics. These two terms are used synonymously with each other, but there are nuances that set them apart that we'll hopefully get a chance to talk about. Okay. I'm also going to venture to demonstrate throughout our talk today the implication of what we're talking about in relation to the concept of, my slide doesn't work, time, right? As business owners, time is many different things, and you will have the opportunity to define what it means to you. The old, most common one, and anyone can chime in here when it comes to business, is time is money, right? I remember, and not to date myself, but I've been in the business for a while. When I first started, that concept was one that revolved around my ins and outs, how I would schedule things, how I would set goals, the influence on how much time I was spending to either be profitable or what my costs were, right? I've been in the business now for 11 years, not to date myself, and my priorities have changed, especially in recent years. So for me, time has correlated now with the word I would insert here, family. I've recently become a mom, and for me, as I build my business and set objectives and goals, it's directly with how quickly I can achieve them so that I can net myself more quality time with my family, right? And for each of you here, you're going to explore, and this will change for you too. But what we're talking about today, that's what I want to really tie it back. So keep this concept of time in the back of your mind. and we'll revisit it very shortly. Next slide. Okay, because we have so many of us, I'm actually glad that I'm going to start off with a quick poll. I understand that you're all new business owners, but I like to understand, what phase are we all? So anybody who's still in the room right now, are you currently, just exploring a business idea? You're not actually registered or have a lot of the moving parts, and how many of you are existing operational business that are currently servicing and selling to customers? I'll give you a couple seconds to fill that out. The reason I'm asking this to start off with is to just get a read of the room so that I can tailor later slides to be more effective. I can change certain things up and focus on areas that are more related to you.
Halsey and I have started the poll. Can you see the?
Yeah, I see.
result?
Yeah, I see it. So naturally, it's looking like we're skewing more towards just exploring. And I'm so tempted. Part of me just wants to stop and dialogue with you guys because I love, I've been able to work with businesses in the last 11 years in many different industries and at all stages of business. Startups and new entrepreneurs, I have a soft spot for this stage of business because there's a high level of excitement and enthusiasm that unfortunately we don't have time to dive into today. But I guess the question I want to ask each of you is, are you enjoying the process, whichever one of these relate to you most, with exploring and maybe developing some of your products and services? For me, like I said, being in the game as long as I have, part of my joy is just not just helping and being creative with solutions, but the fact that no 2 days are alike, right? If I pulled an experience from my schedule last week, I could be in the morning sitting down with an owner to develop new product packaging for, we were talking about this earlier, food and beverage space, which we want to do more of. And then in the afternoon, talking with a very seasoned business owner, successful in their own right, in the service-based industries, and they're looking to expand divisions and be thought leaders in their space, right? It keeps things really interesting. The weeks fly by, but that's my white hot why, if you were to ask, right? So I just, anytime I can, I want to encourage business owners to think of that themselves. Okay, so we can pull down the poll. I just have a lot of slides on the screen right now. Can we minimize them? Serena?
Yeah, I actually stopped sharing the poll. I think you can post on your end. We can't see it on the share screen.
I don't know why it's stop sharing.
Sharing, yeah.
No, it's still up. That's really odd.
You can close on top. Left corner.
Stop share. Okay, well that. Can you see the screen now? The poll?
No, we can't. We can't see your presentation as well.
I'm sorry, guys. Technical difficulties.
No worries.
Share screen. Let's try that again.
Awesome. It works on our end.
Okay, so let me expand that. And then view. Where are we? Okay, that's probably what threw it off. That'll be the last of the polls, I promise. Also say there are many roads to success. There isn't just one. I want you to be encouraged by that. But each one of these roads, no matter where you are in your business journey, from what I know is that it requires you to understand yourself and your audience. So know yourself, know your audience. Knowing yourself can be attributed most specifically to your brand, your identity. And knowing your audience can be what we're talking about today, your customer persona. Okay. Again, because there's more of you that are new, I thought it would be beneficial, and I don't know if this is the overlaps some of the other workshops that you cover, but I think it's beneficial to just revisit what a brand is. And a brand is what you put out to a general public or market for who you are, what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. For clients that work, especially with our firms in the startup phase, we especially focus on the how, because the likelihood of you being a proprietary product that has no competitors in your space is very unlikely. So this is a really powerful thing to focus on, the how, when it comes to messaging and marketing. Another way of looking at it is much like our neighborhood billionaire friend, Jeff Bezos. He said it quite succinctly. He summarized brand as what people say about you when you've left the room. Okay, so when we're not in a space to qualify or clarify or pitch our product or service, that's what people know up to that point about our brand. Any questions? Okay. Buyer persona, in context of the comparison, textbook definition is that it's a representation of your target ideal customer based on market research, prospects. So market research would relate to, I stipulated, your prospective clients and customers, and then real data, which relates to any of you who fell into the second category, who have existing customers and clients, actual data that you extract from them. And this one we'll touch on a little bit, but it's very powerful when you have an existing audience base for which you can pull insights from. What you use and how you can be very effective is something hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about. Okay. Before I jump into my next slide, I want to take the opportunity now to encourage a different lens for each of us, right? As you're going about your journey, looking to grow or start your business, we quite, as marketers or individuals, business owners, we all but forget sometimes that we ourselves serve to be customers and we ourselves have personas. So as you're developing and growing your brand, have instances where you're pausing to consider this, because it's quite powerful what it'll afford you. If we think about ourselves as consumers, what speaks to us and how do we get attracted to brands, right? We don't actually go out looking for brands, right? So when's the last time an unknown brand sparked your interest or caught your attention, right? What in your persona, which we'll get to all the different nuances, makes up who you are as a customer. Very powerful when you're thinking about talking to the audience, not just creating a one-sided conversation, but considering ourselves and our own behavior. Okay. A quote to tie this together, another very famous marketer, Seth Godin. We want to get into the conversations and kind of the lifestyle of our audiences. We don't want to find customers for our products. We want to find products for our customers. So in short, we want to be solution oriented, right? Solve a problem. Any questions? Okay. The focus on target ideal customer. That's what we want to know. What is our target ideal customer? Because so many of you are, startups and very likely still very full of excitement and zealous about your product. You may feel very much like, well, everybody, my product is suitable for everybody, right? Everyone's life would be better if they had my product. This could be the case, and you can make an argument for that, and I'm not about to contend it. But what I've come to understand is that not all consumers are the same. So if we venture to go speaking to an audience or connecting with an audience, highlighting and talking to everybody, the truth is we're going to end up connecting and resonating with nobody. Okay. This isn't going to be a poll, it's going to be a bit of a discussion. But before I go on, does everybody understand the difference between brand and persona? Because sometimes, depending on how it's defined, it can be mixed up. I don't have a prompt, but if I'm not hearing anything, then we'll just go on. Okay, so knowing the difference, which everybody now qualifies what they do, between brand and customer personas, which would you say is more important for building a successful business? And then why? Do we have access to microphones? Or is everybody muted right now?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you have the answer.
Okay, I think customer persona would be more important because you're solving a problem for people.
Okay, good. Does anybody want to agree with that or contend with it?
I want to say the brand.
Okay.
Because there's a way to cheat to see who your target market is from the brand.
Savvy. Okay. So we have two different opinions. Does anyone want to agree with them or even venture to
Julie
set a different?
Julie said knowing who your customer is and why they will buy from you.
Knowing who my customer is and why they will buy for you. Okay, good.
I would say that your brand is more important because that's how your customers know who you are.
Okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I'd like to say that the brand establishes trust and allows customers to come to you. And then once you get to know them, you can serve them better.
Awesome. Okay, so it's not so much set up to be a trick question here, but the truth of the matter is we're going to venture to make the case, truthfully, that they are both equally important. For every point that you guys highlighted, it stands, no doubt about it. You stand corrected. But what I'm venturing to say is that and demonstrate is that you can't actually have one without the other. Okay, your brand relies on your audience to really be fine-tuned, and your audience, in order to connect with them, takes cues from your brand. This is I'm glad that I added this next analogy. I've used this many times and people have found it helpful to demonstrate the effectiveness of both. Understanding how they intermix and work with each other towards your objectives as a company is related to a trip vacation. So because it's freezing out in Toronto and pretty muggy out there, I thought we would all go on a little bit of a vacation together. So we're hitting the road to sunnier destinations. We're going to Florida, and more specifically, we're headed to, let's say, South Beach. Okay, why? Because this is my story, and we're going to South Beach. I long and love to visit that part of Florida again soon. And like I said, we're heading there. We're going to make it a road trip. We're going to be driving. Okay, when we're talking about brand, the brand to our road trip is like a roadmap. Okay, I don't know how many of you are savvy enough to get in a car tomorrow, head towards Florida, and get there without a map. But if you're anything like me, I can't get to a meeting in Midtown without my life depending on my Google Maps. So think about it when it comes to your vacation and your road trip. Your brand is your roadmap. It informs so much of, and is foundational for what you build, including how you connect with your audiences. Okay. Without it, you're going to be like SpongeBob. You're going to be a little bit lost, a lot lost. Personas, I would attribute them in this journey to be like our itinerary, our schedule. Okay, it tells us how to be effective reaching our destination if we have a certain time we want to do that. And again, time will come up again because, as we covered in the beginning of our talk, what does time equate and value in your journey as a business owner, right? That's where personas and this as a tool becomes that much more relevant. Okay, without an understanding of time and in our journey, we're going to be venturing off on our trip, and then we hit the border and we thought, okay, let's stop off for a little bit of a shopping spree. If you're like me, half an hour can be a few hours in no time. And what's the opportunity cost there? You lose time. You may have to do extra stops. And again, you get back on your journey and you stop again because you realize Orlando is on the way. So you say you want to stop off to see how your friends are doing at the Magic Kingdom. it's not, what I'm getting at is it's not detrimental to your overall journey, because at the end of the day, the likelihood of you achieving your destination is intact. But the efficiency is where I wanted to stress personas come into play, right? If I want to get from A to B within a set amount of time, and as business owners, time reflects on, you know, our limitations or limitlessness of our resources, right? Just like running a business, we have so many different variables and costs that can go into place, investments, overhead, right? That are contingent on continuing if by needing to achieve a level of success, selling our products, connecting with clients, right? Also say, if we don't have either of these two informing each other, you're gonna feel like you're back in Toronto before you know it, or worse, you're gonna be maybe in Alberta, freezing and not so much in the sunshine, right? Does that make sense as an analogy, how they are equally important and how they inform each other? Okay. A quote to summarize the 3 points that we started off and to lead into our next discussion is, again, from our final marketer, Kevin Sturtz. He's a writer, actually. And he said it best, I found. Know what your customers want, which is understanding their personas, right? And then what your company focus on, and what your company does best. Know what your customers want and know what you do best as a company. Focus on where those two meet, and it's a formula for really great success. Okay, so this takes us to the second part of our agenda, which is building a customer persona. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it. There are endless amounts of templates out there for what you can follow, and they can get pretty intricate depending on your objectives and how refined you want you set your goals. For our purposes today, we've created just a standard one for you to go by and for us to discuss around. Serena, I'm going to make this available to you if anybody after today's talk wishes to have this as a starting point. And before we dive into the nuances of them, I do want to preface buyer persona, buyer personas, right? Filling up one of these will create an audience that you might want to talk to. The question is, how many of these do I do? Is it effective if I create 17 different personas? No, we're gonna truly fall back into the initial conversation we wanted to avoid, is talking into the void to too many people, right? We want to narrow down our field. We don't want to do just one, and we don't want to do 20. For new businesses, my recommendation would be anywhere from 3 to 4 to start, right? And then you'll see how you can scale, build, layer in, and do away with the ones that are effective. And hopefully we'll get a chance again to talk about that. The sections for what I've outlined, this is again quite standard, and it gives you a broad range of a narrow target that you might speak to for your products. And again, it's quite challenging because I can't speak to what product or services some of you guys are exploring. But feel free if any of you want to, make it an exercise to give me an example, and we can create it in real time. But if not, then we're just going to move on. So you have the standard things like age, gender, income, location, family situation, annual income, and then the professional side, because we wear many different hats in our lives. And then what speaks to us personally, what moves the needle for us, and how we relate, resonate, and build trust with certain brands. So what are my values? What are my goals in my decision-making process? Challenges can be things that I am looking to solve problems for instance. And then sources of influence come into play. If you're looking at how and the different channels, which we'll get to, I find my way to a specific product or service, right? Am I a kind of Netflix and am I, spending half my day on Netflix and the other half gaming, on what PlayStation is it on right now? I can't even keep track. Or am I more, watching CNN and reading The Economist? Who is your audience, and how do we read through the different ones that really make up who would resonate with our product and our services? Okay, buying decisions. This has become more prominent in more recent years. Buying decisions and places where the customer journey begins and ends. How many, I should have created a poll, but how many of you predominantly buy your groceries online versus going to the actual physical retail store? These stats are very interesting and always changing in our world, that we pay attention to it as we help our clients find their solutions, because in the last 2 years, our world has vastly changed, and so have the buying decisions and the consumers for different products, right? Drastically from even 4 years ago. So these are the things you want to pay attention to. And I'm going to move on if nobody has any specific questions for filling this particular persona out. Any takers?
Quick question.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
I
I'm wondering
sure
if we start, so I'm looking at the personas template. Do we start with what problem we're trying to solve for them? And I only ask this because I'm thinking about giving it a focus. So what problem am I trying to solve? What are their motivations?
Yeah.
I don't know. Before I get into age and all of that stuff, I'm just wondering if I start there and then I can
Absolutely.
drill down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because one will inform the other without even you knowing it. If you start with a person's problems, you can then isolate who in an age group experiences this problem the most.
Okay.
And then you can continue to extract from there. And before you know it, you are, any which way you start, you're going to ask yourself the next question, which will answer the next field. Right. So I think actually you're, I'm glad you brought it up. I don't have your name, but starting with challenges.
It's Joy.
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
Starting with challenges is actually a really savvy place to begin the conversation when you're building personas, because as I mentioned earlier, putting that lens on again, thinking of myself as a consumer, right? I buy to improve my life. I buy to solve things that I'm, that are obstacles, right? So absolutely, that is an effective and powerful way to start the conversation, by being, again, what I encourage to be the solution to a problem. So if you have a service or a product that has that as a foundational driver, good for you. Start there. Good.
Tamara, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tamara, and I have I have a bit of a double question here. So I have a lot of analytics on my customers, but and I surveyed them last summer. But other than surveying the customers, how can we use the analytics to answer what you have here? I mean, obviously, there are finer details towards the left that we would have to ask them about. And we could probably, maybe you'll get to some methods on how to get that, but is there a way to understand their values and goals, their challenges and buying decisions? Like, how do we figure that out?
You said a magic word right there, analytics and metrics. I thought it might be a little bit too advanced in today's talk, but when it comes to that point, and when you come to that stage where you're addressing and focusing on how to navigate and be effective with analytics, it's that much more layers of insights, because you have existing customers that are feeding you information. Now, depending on where you're pulling these reports, analytics and metrics from, maybe social media platforms, are they from focus groups that you've created? Are they from your Google ad business page, right? There are so many layers for which you can pull reports. and they can not, I would advise that you don't see them in isolation. That's one of the biggest misnomers in with clients that we have an opportunity to work with. They have report and numbers and stats upon stats, but they don't layer it in together to start speaking back to them. So they take one report analytics and they're thinking, okay, well, I'm skewing towards this audience. So that might make sense for how I build my personas if I was going to do that. But then they don't account for 3 other layers of metrics that are telling them a whole other narrative about their brand, right? Metrics and analytics are kind of, how would I describe it? It's like intel, intelligence and feedback about your brand that you want to pay attention to. And on social media, there's even terms for it, like social listening, for what people are doing and interacting with your brands, that then you can inform what your next move is and your next investment or focus is when it comes to marketing. Do you have an understanding of where these metrics are coming from?
I have a number of places, like from my Linktree, social media, just my Google, my business page, right? But I think it's just, for me, I'll tell you the 2 conflicts, and I'm sorry if I'm going too far ahead, but we've been established for going on 4 years. So one of the issues that I'm concerned with is that our persona has changed because we're establishing and growing. So I'm seeing more of like males interacting with our product. And so I want to evaluate that. I want to understand the males even better. And I think that just with like different influencers or different, ways that we've marketed our product, intentionally or not, we've now just like encouraged, like had growth in like younger markets, etc. So it just seems a little bit confusing and overwhelming to me as to like, how do I button down exactly who is the persona? Are we splitting things up as far as male and female, or are we just saying individuals who, and then how do I know what they're doing? Like, how do I know, again, what their buying decisions are, what their challenges are? I guess this all relates back to my product. I don't know. I just feel like I'm scrambling a little bit.
Don't
and
feel
that's
like
why
you're
I'm here
scrambling.
tonight.
Yeah, no, welcome. And don't feel like you're scrambling. In fact, you should be encouraged because you do have a lot to work with, right? That's where I was talking about. When you get to a point where you have feedback and you have insights from customers, it's just how to kind of untie the knots and have it speak to you English, right? Rather than numbers and charts and percentages, right? So if you are seeing your personas change, it's very natural for a brand, especially one that's growing. So kudos and a pause for celebration, right? If you are seeing so take your analytics, and not to dive too much into this, and we can always have a separate conversation, but then take your analytics and see how it correlates to your bottom line, okay? I'm assuming you are you're an online business and you're selling online. You'll have metrics and reports coming from your sales on Shopify, if that's one of the more popular platforms, right? I'm assuming.
No, I'm just, this is why I'm reevaluating this. I'm just establishing my online platform with Shopify now. And even just, as far as the color and going back and forth with my designer, he's like, well, I thought your persona was women who were this. And I'm like, yeah, but that's actually changed. So I haven't even launched the site because I feel like right now there's too much pink.
Okay.
So I'm like, we have to reevaluate this. So it's just stuff like that I'm just trying to, I don't know.
Okay. Because I want to be cognizant of the time and the space that we have, but I'm quite interested to see where you're at and maybe help you with unpacking a couple different areas that'll set you in good shape for what you do next. I think it's nothing but excitement you should be having. So don't feel overwhelmed right now. It's good, and it's not daunting at all what you should and would be encouraged to do next. So was that Tamara?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for indulging me, and I'll
No, I think you're in a good place. I mean, 4 years in, and then now you're just evolving. It's very common of businesses to speak to different audiences, right? It's only good that you start off in one place, win with that group, and then spin off again, there's so many things that could weigh into why this has happened. But perhaps reach me after and we can unpack a few details.
Thanks again. Thank you.
No worries. Anybody else?
We have a question in the chat from Julie.
Sure.
She
Yeah.
asked, can you base the customer persona on Instagram stats?
Yeah, you definitely. If you are buying and selling specific, like if that is your main form of sales or a driver to your website and to your shopping cart, but the likelihood of you having other different layers, I always encourage you to layer out all your forms of metrics and then compare and contrast. Because I've come across so many different times, people think they're winning in one area and their stats and numbers are screaming for them to pay attention to something else that's happening over here. So wherever you have, again, everyone's now familiar with these strategies and channels for which your brand will amplify their message, pay attention to each one of them. Don't just, as they say, put all your eggs in one basket, because it may serve you well for a while, but then you may, as you grow, have blind spots in other areas that are designed to tell you information about how your brand is connecting with people. Does that make sense?
She said, yeah, I am mainly catering to women 34 to 45, but have noticed a lot of men following my social media and buying from me.
Good. And again, you have to question, like, are these men buying for themselves? I don't know the product. Or are they buying as gifts for others, right? There's so many different variables that can weigh into them coming across your message. Maybe they heard it from somebody. Maybe it was a female buyer that, you know, influence their behavior to shop for somebody else in their space. If it's your product is predominantly for the purpose of females, again, it's very hard for me to weigh into this, and it's all I can do to not ask further questions because I'm genuinely curious. But again, we can have a separate dialogue. There's many different moving parts before you make decisions on explicitly how to and why to do certain things. But I think what I'm getting is that you're all tracking with the value of personas, the power of them, and how they can net you insights, which is great. So we create these personas, and let's get back on track if everyone's good with that. We create these personas for new businesses or new directions that your existing businesses is taking. 3 to 4 is sufficient, and then you want to test, right? There's an intentionality with how, if you start clean slate, Tamara, this is something that I'm thinking about that just came to me. If you're starting clean with a clean slate of insights, right? Isolate them to personas that you might venture to hypothesize. Okay, I'm thinking that my new audience fits within these 3 personas. There's an ability to test it, which we'll cover, and then see how far off you were, how accurate, and if you weren't, keep applying yourself and keep being intentional about that.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome. I thought, and again, I'm glad I went in just this direction, because it sounds like, and I'm getting the read that there's more hands-on value and interest here in the room. So I pulled an existing client of ours to have more of a practical application for how we do it at Imprint Marketing Group. Okay, so there's a template that I gave you as a standard, and it'll give you a read of your initial personas. Because we've been doing it for so long, we don't necessarily fill these out ourselves. We do a number of things in conjunction with each other. Okay, and we always start off with understanding the brand, understanding their challenges, and working backwards. A lot of this is working backwards to understand what we're trying to achieve, and then reverse engineer, how do we get there? Okay, so with this particular client, and again, for privacy's sake, I've blocked out their name and some of the proprietary information, but it'll still serve to be, I think, a wonderful example of what happens with customer personas and how we address them. So we start off with an introduction about what the company is, right? This company that we're going to talk about today is in the health and wellness space. They are actually a nutritional supplement with eons of years of science behind it. So it's quite heavy with jargon and information. Oops, what happened? Okay. And in our intro, we learn and understand that this product targets underlying causes of metabolism and dysfunction. That's a mouthful. And by working with cellular, okay, so I'm going to skip that. And it helps overall to regulate blood sugar levels. That's the crux of a lot of information that they sent to us when we first did our discovery. I got mounds of science research papers, and it was just all me and my writers could do to weed through it. And at the crux of it, I realized that this everything that they benefit their audiences hinges on the focus of blood sugar levels, right? And how it prevents chronic illnesses like diabetes, okay? All of the products are plant-based, vegan, non-gluten-free, and free of artificial flavors and preservatives. If you guys are kind of journeying along, you're going to start seeing, you know, a little bit of a person formulating a personality, a character coming along in just the intro, okay? We do further exploration. They have a lot of existing clients. They are an online business, and they happen to be in Canada as well as in the States. They're selling on Amazon, and they're growing at a pace, but there's still an area that is not their returns in specific areas are not something that they're happy with, and there seems to be an issue that they brought to us to want to address. Okay, I won't jump. I'll keep going. All of the products are sustainably manufactured and follow strict regional good agricultural practices, so GAP, which means that waste reduction, lower emissions, and improved standards for soil and health. You can see how this is very much, how do we make this kind of palatable for a consumer? And this was our one of our challenges, right? In an intro and a summary, weeding out all of the different pieces of information we were getting, and again, talking to the clients, that was very much like that description of that zealous startup company. They are 10 years in the game, and they still feel like everybody needs our product. Everybody could be better off with our product. And that's what they were venturing to go into the market saying, you know, here's the 10 different reasons and the 10 different benefits that our product is for. And the results were that they weren't connecting with anybody. Audiences were thinking that they were kind of a magic pill, and other audiences were saying the jargon is it's not connecting, right? And that's what they came to us to try to untie all these knots. So a number of you had participated, and I see somebody raising their hands. It's somebody who is 10 years in the business can experience some of the same things that some of you guys are going through. Okay. Okay, the last point is that they're Canadian discovery. I put that in there because it does influence customer personas and how a consumer resonates with a particular brand. Okay, so is there any questions? I went off on a little tangent there.
Not from the chat.
Thank you. So we further unpacked and refined and filtered out to try to get at what their challenges were. And we realized very quickly through a combination of talking with their existing clients and understanding what the market for this space bears in terms of thresholds and buying behavior, right? We're quite thorough with understanding for our clients all different layers, what people are saying, down to their staff. We were interviewing their staff. It boiled down to two different adjectives. Their product was revolved around being a solution, right, for audiences, and prevention. For all the different messages and noise they were making, it was very simple. And when we brought this to their attention, it was like a light bulb lit the entire room up. Solution versus prevention. Okay, now we can start a conversation. Okay. We're looking to speak to people, especially in this day and age. We were looking at numbers that were through the roof for how people as consumers these days, especially Canadian consumers, buy products. We are very much a consumer that is highly skeptical, right? Wanting to take our own health into our own hands, especially given, again, the landscape in which we're living in, where we're constantly driving to build our immune systems and be healthier, right? As we're coming along, these personas are writing themselves. From there, we then create, again, in conjunction with everything else, our insights, we start building these profiles. And this is something you guys can also do. We make it very much like a storytelling session. So we build profiles, and they can be quite detailed because this helps you with your communication that follows. Okay, so the first profile outlines between the two focuses, solution and prevention, outlines a combination of the two. Okay, so Madison is she's got a science background, and her mom, somebody who's in her circle of influence and close to her, was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Okay, because of her science background, she's skeptical as a consumer about homeopathic remedies, but she knows her mother prefers natural solutions wherever it's possible. So, you've got her attention because she's not just buying for herself. She also knows that because of genetics, and she's in her mid-20s right now, she's starting to be a little proactive, and she thinks of her own health, knowing that she has, a predisposition to the health challenges that her mom is experiencing. So profile one, the combination of a solution for lowering blood sugar for her mom and also prevention for her. This marks that audience who has somebody who they can stand to benefit, and also wants to explore a little bit about how to live a healthier lifestyle. Profile two focuses more on, the solution. Sorry, no, prevention. So this is a male individual who is very fit in his background. He's in his mid-30s, and he knows that, in order to prevent chronic illnesses, he's embracing health and diet lifestyles that will lessen the risk of developing health issues later. So he's not predisposed to anything. He just wants to live to be 120 years old, right? And there are a lot of people in this space. They just are very cognizant of what they eat, their diet, their exercise and activity levels, right? So for our second profile, we thought this would be somebody who's just focused on incorporating this particular product into their everyday lifestyle. Okay, and then the third profile that we earmarked was one focusing on what's left, that's the solution. Okay, so Sarah is older in her age, she's 63, and she's diagnosed with diabetes and macular degeneration. All things that, again, incorporating this particular product into your life will improve upon your situation. So she's been instructed to attend classes to learn how to manage her blood sugar, and she's been encouraged to be more proactive, right? So she has a symptom now that she's diagnosed with, and now it's to manage and mitigate it accelerating. All of a sudden, from our research and what you will be doing with your personas, you're understanding a set group of these profiles. That's not to say that we're going to win with all of them, but we want to apply it because we have grounds to believe that this is the group that we should be talking to. And if you isolate your messages rather than talking to everybody out there, you have that much more of a chance and likelihood that you're going to resonate effectively. Resonating is one thing. Some people can hear what you're selling, what you're buying, and what you're pitching, but will they actually convert and adopt your product? That's the trick, right? It's not just to be heard. It's just like social media. Just because you have 10,000 followers doesn't mean that you have 10,000 sales. That's just something that I always, when it comes to our marketing division for social media, it's a huge misnomer that people think, and they drive for the likes, when at the end of the day you could be not growing at all. Fair? So where are we? You have your personas. And personas then in our experience, in our journey, our stages of helping our clients, we then move into what these personas influence us when it comes to speaking and creating messages. So we're tracking timely in our agenda because this is how communication happens. And depending on where you're having this, you know, the tone is a very important aspect to our marketing efforts. So we create what a tone is, and you can have a tone that you set for your brand in general, your company, right? A lot of times we strategize to have that to be the voice, almost like the voice of the owner. So it's almost when you're hearing key messaging or descriptions on a website, sometimes we write intentionally so that it's almost like you're having an interview or you're being told a story by the owner themselves. There's a really emotional, it's a strategy to connect with your audience as if they're connecting with the person who created the product. Sometimes we create, avatars and a particular spokesperson that represents the brand. The goal with brand tones is to familiarize that consistency with the messaging over time. There's nothing like, and we've experienced this many times before, you go on a person's website and it seems like you're understanding maybe a scientist, very jargon heavy, talking about it. And then you go onto their social media and it's like you're talking to their teenage son. You have too many personalities representing the brand. There's no consistency for your audience to connect with, right? And over time, like I mentioned, this can be, it can develop roadblocks over time. So what we want to encourage right out of the gate is consistency with your brand tone. And then further to that, when you create these personas, you want to adapt that brand tone to the people you're talking to. Much like when I am trying to resonate with my 2-year-old, I'm very calm and patient. When I'm trying to get my point across to my husband, I'm screaming, right? And yelling my head off. Your tone changes with how you want to be effective with your audience. So you create these personas, you're going to create that tone that is most receptive to them. And there's different ways you can do that. Any questions? Awesome. Yeah, I'm tracking, and I think we're gonna have sufficient amount of time to have more of a dialogue in the end. But where we picked up was tone. Okay, for our clients, we get pretty intricate with how to address tone, because at the end of the day, we leave our clients with a bit of a roadmap. If they're going to continue and scale their teams and have more people handling their brand, you want to ensure that this becomes consistent and something that is repeatable, right? So from brand managers to, again, depending on how big a company scales and grows and how quickly, the brand tone becomes something of a, it ties it all together and maintains consistency. So for this particular brand, we highlighted that to focus on the demographic that's hungry for the knowledge about the science and benefits of this product. The copy should impart the reader with a tidbit of information, but not overwhelm them, right? Sometimes it's a fine balance. You want to tell them all the things that you're excited about your product for, but it may not be where the customer is at to digest all that information. So your different channels for which you share different pieces of information becomes something to pay attention to, and we're gonna touch on that. Informative, reassuring, and decisive. Right, so you're not wavering and wallowing in between places. It's quite borderline of unapologetic. We give even a scenario. Again, it really helps to illustrate what we're trying to get at. So here, imagine whoever's going to be the writer for this brand. You're a doctor with very good people skills who's talking to a patient about their health. They trust your authority and your knowledge, and you have years of training behind you. That's the science that reinforces that pillar. You know what you're talking about, and you also empathize with their concerns. So every which way the personas will go, we want to reinforce that and then position ourselves as a partner and an ally in their journey to health. So we don't want to come off preaching at a person. Sometimes brands, they fearmonger, or if you don't take this, you're going to lose 5 years off your life. That's no way to resonate with, I mean, some people are successful. Like I said, there's many roads to success, but for this particular brand, okay, we had positioned everything that we speak to them to be kind of an ally and an advocate for what they're aiming to do, which is increase and improve their journey to health. Okay, further to the tone, you can also establish adjectives that help the process, okay, when you have these personas and how you talk to them. So for us, we left our clients with the understanding that when you are speaking with your audience, you want to be reassuring, informative, professional, warm, firm, empathetic. This may serve to be redundant for some of you, but it really goes a long way depending on different outlets and different channels of which you are formulating key messaging, right? You want to make sure you're checking off more of these than not when you're venturing to speak to your ideal customers. In the same light, for what we also highlight and cover our grounds for what we're not. Okay, because if we're gunning at trying to be and strike a certain tone without understanding what we're not, you can again find yourself in unfamiliar territories and striking the wrong note. So for this particular brand, they're not self-righteous, they're not shaming, they're not too academic, they're not tongue-in-cheek. Some people, they find a reason to be overly clever in certain platforms and then overly serious. So it's again a confusion of who's actually representing the brand. So consistency is key here, and a few other adjectives for what we advise that the tone is not from what we set forward. Okay. Overall, the word that I want to keep emphasizing is intentionality. When I advised and spoke very briefly about some of your experiences, it's not just taking one little piece of information and saying, okay, well, we're changing direction. It's follow the breadcrumbs of that initial prompt, right? So if our brand and our personas or our analytics are telling us one thing, explore further, ask why, be that little toddler that's like always saying, but why, until you really have an understanding of where this all stems from, and then you can venture to make some decisions about how to pivot or how to keep doing what you're doing better. Okay. One of slides. So when we are intentional with understanding our ideal customers, right, we are going back to our journey to Florida, right? We're being very intentional about getting there at a certain time, at a certain date. We set up goals and objectives as business owners, right? Personas are a really powerful tool to get us to where we're going. Again, layered with all sorts of other tools efficiently, okay? You afford yourself to attract the most valuable visitors. You build trust quicker and convert quicker. So like I said, your message or your artwork or your website could resonate with somebody and you could get their attention, right? For a certain amount of time too, but are they going to buy and convert? That's the question, right? Attracting and using personas gets you quicker to that conversion state, okay? You do this by relating. We're all human beings. We're all social and looking for things that resonate and connect with us, that increase, and then this increases loyalty over time. And then that's a really sweet spot to be when you have audiences that are repeat customers or tried and tested, right? Because they become your sales force and they become a really powerful tool in the growth of your business. When you get to that point, and I'm looking to a lot of you that have retail products, right? And existing clients, really spend time focusing, and much of you guys from what you're sharing with me are value the insights that your current customers are giving you, right? Because they not only inform where you go next, but they showcase, and teach you where you need to pay attention and where you might be standing to do better, or things that are your blind spots, as I would say, right? We're so focused on doing so many things trying to grow this business. Our current audiences or our prospective clients are screaming at the opportunity to tell us how to connect better. When it comes to marketing initiatives, same with resources and the time that we have, right? I have yet to come across a business owner that says, I want the most scenic, route and the longest and most patient journey to success, because the truth of the matter is we're all on a timeline. We don't have endless resources and time, whatever that value is that we put into that gap, right, to waste when it comes to what we invest to be in entrepreneurs. So, focusing intentionally on customer personas nets you a formula to formulate the art of your success, right? Okay, any questions? We're winding the corner to our last point. Questions so far? Okay. So there are, when it comes to strategies, this is our last point, strategies and tactics. Now we have our personas, we have our tone. How do we then get really proactive with the things that we can do, the creative and the fun stuff for moving the needle with our audiences? There are many, depending on which textbook or definition you go by, there's many different strategies for different stages of business. For our talks today, because we're all in just the beginning stages or fairly green, market entry is what we're focusing on, and that is the selling of our products to current and existing customers, and the goal is to create loyalty over time. A lot of you, I wish I could dive more into it. I have a curiosity to know who and how many of you are experiencing this with your brands, because it's a really exciting place to be. Okay, so selling current products to existing customers. A few other things that your focus would be in this stage of business is to attract competitors, customers. So you are in a space where there are other products out there that are maybe touting the same benefits or using the same formula and or processing. Again, I'm using the juice example because it's the closest to us from this experience. But how can we then get a little disruptive? How can we set ourselves apart more to maybe cover some of their audiences? Because that's the name of the game too. It's winning audiences over to your product and giving them reason to connect better for your solution and service. Okay. We also want to be increasing the frequency of our product use. So for those who tried, we want to be intentional about repeat customers, right? Building that stage and those steps to eventually loyalty and a bit of an amplifying effect for ambassadors for our brands. And then also included here is converting non-users into users. So continuing to saturate the market and cover audiences that you may not have had attention paid to. We see these with brands that are going into different territories, maybe Canadian brands that are now saying, okay, we are available in the US. Now you're in US and Canada. The next phase is to branch out to Europe and Australia, right? We have clients that we've seen from local Canadian businesses expand, and now their reach is. I have a brand that we're dealing and working with. They started 2 years ago. And because of their formula and their really laser focus understanding of their brand and their audiences, they've grown. Their clients are online shops, online consumers as well as wholesalers. So in 2 years, they've grown from, I think year one they had 30 wholesalers, and they're looking to break 700 wholesalers this year. Okay, so again, when you have that formula of success and things are firing, it can move very quickly. And then as owners, you have to then address, how quickly can I scale? So if you have product line, if you are in manufacturing, all sorts of fun decisions come into the fray. From this stage and all of those objectives being of interest to us, we then go back to the 5 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion, and people. I'm sure you've come across the 5 Ps in your journey with these workshops. Again, we're focusing because we've spent a lot of time understanding and being intentional about the people that we're looking. Place and promotion become our final areas that we want to play in. Okay, so when it comes to place, we're more talking the channels and the platforms we will use for applying these strategies and tactics. Okay, a lot of you have mentioned them in conversation today. Can I just have a few people chime in? What sort of channels are you familiar with for marketing that you have either used yourself or are looking to explore? Anybody?
I've looked into Facebook and Google ads.
Okay, good. Like what you see?
Google ads are expensive. Like I knew that going in, that Google ads are going to be a little bit pricier, but they're the ones that are going to bring me the most traction to my website. Facebook ads actually aren't that bad. You get to set up your ads. They're not, I think if you do $5 a day for 21 days and you can get, X amount of views, X amount of clicks, they kind of estimate that stuff for you, like Google ads does. I think most advertising platforms do that. Not that pricey, but again, my target audience or it's more tailored to the younger crowd. And because I have a 16-year-old sister, I know that they don't use Facebook. They use Snapchat and Tumblr and TikTok. Yeah. And so I'm in the process of, setting up a TikTok page and getting my sister, who's got a huge following on Tumblr, to promote through her Tumblr following, because that's literally all my target audience right there.
Good.
So,
and your target audience being skewed to the younger, more of the younger age, you then have to question, what is their spending like, or their disposable income? I mean, a lot of other considerations come into play for the conversion aspect to your business. So it sounds like you're tracking. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, it's all about, because we started a business where we sell fandom merchandise. So like we sell stuff like Harry Potter, Marvel, all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of people my age, where I'm 25. It's a lot of people my age who are like really invested in, the things we love to consume, because we're all about consuming stuff these days.
Yeah.
And it's also the younger crowd, where it's like they're just so excited and thirsty for more content of the content that they already consume. Like they're reading fan fictions written by each other just to get more of the content. And it's just an interesting market to get into, because again, I'm 25, I'm not 16. So I'm like learning this almost different kind of culture that they have going on now.
Oh, 100%. And again, like you said, because we have more idle time and we are spending more time at home, that content becomes a form of entertainment, right? Something that it may not in previous years have been seen as. It might have been just informational. So we're constantly playing catch up with the changing consumer behaviors out there for different industries and products. But it sounds like you're in a really fun space. So I think that's great that you understand, your particular channels that are most effective. So you're all tracking there. Thank you for your weigh in. And truthfully, there's no shortage of strategies and marketing tactics that you can use. The list goes on and on. Venture to Google it, they'll have no end. But promotion is the next thing that I want to focus on here, because it boils down to 2 objectives. You may have many, but it boils down to 2 different umbrellas as a business. You're either wanting to build brand awareness, share about what your brand is for people who have never heard of you, or you're looking to sell, conversion, and grow your business that way, right? Because at the end of the day, awareness and people knowing and liking is not going to keep the lights on. So knowing this, promotion, awareness, and conversion, you apply that. There are instances where these 2 can be joint interests. So campaigns that go out or initiatives that focus specifically for both awareness and conversion. I would advise when you're starting off a business, don't try to achieve both, because your messages could stand to be muddled, focus on one, maybe create different initiatives, right? And you can compare and contrast your efforts that way. Try not to be too multitasking when it comes to marketing, especially in early stages. Isolate, understand what it's benefiting and being effective, and then make the next decision. Okay. I'm doing pretty good. Application strategies and tactics. I thought I would venture to open this, like begin an early discussion, knowing that place is all the different channels, and promotion revolves around awareness and conversion. Using the example of my one of the clients, the previous client that we had started the applications for, I thought maybe we could kind of interact and choose how to formulate a strategy or a tactic that could be viable for the space that this particular client is in. So like I said, there is no shortage of different marketing channels and tactics that we can use. So there's email marketing, PR strategies, affiliate marketing, digital marketing, social media, SEO. I've just listed a very short list of a few. And then the topic of awareness and conversion. If there's any interest, we can pick one of these, and I can kind of reverse engineer how our personas that we now understand how to create, how to apply tone to, can then be effective when it comes to the strategies. What do you guys think?
Can we look at digital marketing and SEO?
Yeah.
The reason I ask that is because I sometimes feel a little bit confused when it comes to social media and digital marketing. They feel very similar.
Yeah.
And same with SEO. So I'm just trying to look for some distinction. If
no problem.
Okay.
Okay. Let me start by defining that, and that's a good place to be. And wherever the needs are and the inquiries will go that way. It doesn't have to be too structured. SEO is short for search engine optimization. Okay. So if we think ourselves again as consumers, how do we find things that we are interested in finding, right? Right now, there are platforms like Google. Google is everything drives towards pleasing, and people joke the Google gods, right? Because that's where companies are ranked and found. I may type in a search. Let's say I'm in the market for an SUV, right? So how do we type in our searches for things that we're looking for? I may type in, efficient, safe SUV, right? Five person seater, and then I would get my list of all the keywords that matches my search, right? Then I would want to refine it. Safe SUV, 5-seater, but 5-star safety rating, and maybe I put a price range between X amount of dollars, because that's how I set a budget. Then I'm going to have a refined search for the next group of matches. SEO is what we do for the content of our when we build a website. There's two forms of SEO. There's on-site. So when we build a website, there's content, images, and all of these things. I'm trying to make this layman's that will prompt these searches to connect to what our site is. Okay, off-site SEO. So my about us section, or my product development, my ingredients. These are all things that we can optimize, search engine optimize. We can optimize through a series of actions that then make my content of the site, my images of my site, findable to a general public. Okay. That's offsite, onsite. Sorry, it's late, right? The next form of SEO is what we continue to do, because having a set amount of content and images on my site over the next 5 months prompts Google to say that I'm not updating or relevant to the people who are searching what my my area of focus is. So when we build a website, things that we lean on to keep our content fresh and therefore more relevant to the people who are searching it, Google is a bit of a how could I describe it? Google is, well, not Google as in a person, but they have algorithms and bots that continuously search the site to qualify, because their reputation is based on getting our user the most perfect answer to their searches, right? This is why they're worth billions and billions of dollars, because when I go on Google, I'm going to net me a really effective solution to what I'm looking for to solve my problems, right? If they just let anybody rank on their platform, they would be, you know, misdirecting me in 17 directions, trying to find the most perfect SUV, and then I would get mad at the platform that I'm searching on. Okay, if that makes any sense. So I try to put personas to the entities in which I'm describing, right? So SEO is the actions we take for our platforms, like websites, how we update them and how we optimize them so that they can be found. Digital marketing is the tools in which we use to drive traffic to then our website. They work hand in hand, and they both have their own level of metrics and analytics, but they're different. Okay, digital marketing can be like Google Ads, right? So I now have my site optimized. Now I want to give it a little bit of a kickstart. So I may create a campaign that weeds out, so pay to play. I want to weed out the people that are searching, and I give myself a bit of an edge, right? So now we're competing for keywords, right? So in cold press, I may say cold press healthy and unpack a certain amount of keywords that I want an audience to find and then choose from, right? All of those will drive directly back to my site. So a point of encouragement for each of you, when you get to the point you're developing your website, be very intentional, right, about the content, because when you get people to your site, what are you telling them you want? What do you want them to do? One of the major mistakes that new businesses do is they get people to their website, and then there's no what we call call to actions, right? You have the ability, once you get somebody in, what do you want them to do? The websites have to have that element of utility. What value am I bringing to you with the time that you've graced me to spend on my website? And then how do I want to connect with you, right? So be sure to spend your time efficiently for the audiences that you are garnering and connecting with. Okay, so with to tail it back to this particular client that we have, if we're talking about digital marketing, so let's say a Google ad campaign, they have two different audiences that we've identified. People who are looking for preventative measures, and then solutions. So people who are diabetic, right? We may isolate as a group. So I will create a campaign that speaks to the personas of people battling with diabetes, right? What are the challenges they face? What are the products out there that are not as effective as what I'm offering, right? I'm going to insert myself into these conversations and then have me found through my digital marketing efforts. And all of these personas are going to be directing and leading the way for who I connect with, because the second that they connect with me, I'm going to resonate with them, because I'm going to be speaking, you know, into their. Have you ever come across a brand and it was almost like they were verbatim describing the exact situation that you're looking for, and you're like, yes, I would like to try this because this is a problem. Have you guys experienced that? It's by design, and there's immediate trust and like almost curiosity that gets you to be like, I need to try this product, right? That's when you are using your personas and you're eliciting emotions that motivate, you know, your audience to give you a try as an early adopter, or reinforces that I'm a 5-time repeat customer and I go to this product because they practice what they preach, or they've served a utility in my life to improve or make it better, right? All of these forms of marketing, if they are driven by what your brand stands for, and then specific and how they connect with the audiences that play in that space, you guys are what I would always say. My team hates it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, we're cooking with oil, right? It's that much accelerated how we achieve our goals. Cool. I don't know if we have any time, but we can keep doing this, using that example, how we focus on awareness, conversion, and use these marketing channels, because they don't get old to us. It's a lot of fun you can have creating, you know, intentional initiatives to achieve certain goals. I'm gonna look to Serena. We have, I think we're at the half-hour mark. Do we want to do questions, or do we want to just keep doing this?
We have like 25 minutes. Let's start with the starts for the Q&A.
Sure. I see that there's 63 chats or messages? Or do I need my
Sure.
glasses?
Yeah, but there's no question in the chat.
Or are
Hello.
they are people just yelling at me?
No,
I have a
no.
question.
Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay. My question is, could you explain, I've heard public relations, but could you explain it a little bit more in relation to this?
Okay, well, PR, it's interesting, the topic of PR, because it's shifting like everything else in the industry. If you were to say 10 years ago, what does PR have a role in when it comes to marketing? PR is essentially an entity that speaks on behalf of a brand to drive certain objectives. So you would have an agency that, again, understands your goals, and they would connect you, whether it's on traditional media, they would have a network of magazines, or they would have news stations, TV outlets to connect you with, so that your brand and your message is amplified. And they would manage this in initiative and intentions for you with goals that they set, that you establish. And their job is to be, well, to net you the results that you set forward to do. This today, public relations agencies have evolved and almost had to, truly, they have to adapt, or it's like when we started our company. I'm trying to be very diplomatic about this. When we started our company, we were just graphic design and print. If I didn't add the pillar of website development and design into the mix of our business, I would be a dinosaur. Okay, so if I didn't adapt in this day and age, because of TikTok, because of social media, because of YouTube, public relations have really been put on into the spotlight to be questioned, their utility. So a lot of the firms that we work strategically with, who have adapted more towards the digital side of things, they're solid. But those who are still old school and saying, you know, we can move the needle for your brand by trying to get you into a magazine or print, you know, I'm not an advocate that print is dead, absolutely not. But there is more effective ways with all the different tools that are in the marketplace right now. One of you mentioned that with younger audiences too, they're not using converting on what was traditionally used to connect and be very effective. So PR relations, I put it in there because it still has a utility, but it's not as a major player as it once was.
Okay, that's I understand.
Cool. Can we share some businesses? I want to hear about what some of you guys are exploring. Is it products? Is it services? Anyone want to share their ideas or where they are?
Hey, Halcyon, this is Kiran. Let
Hi,
me,
Kiran.
yeah, hi. I'll go ahead with sharing my idea. It is almost in a proof of concept stage. So
Wonderful.
primarily it's a AI product, like everything else AI these days. So it's about when you drive into a drive-through in a quick serve restaurant. You know, case in point could be Tim Hortons. But instead of speaking to a human, because the labor shortages and running the locations in time crunch fashion because they don't have staff to run it and such. So we are using AI to take the order, enter it into the POS. Now it's a very purpose-built AI application. And working with B2B and working with food and retail industry, the sales cycle are very, very long. So how do we use, you know, there is a lot to assimilate from what you just walked through. Maybe I need to give a reread, but how do we use the best of all the tools that are at disposal to create awareness, to really make the cycle of building awareness and going through all the way to the sale faster? What advice do you have for someone like me and my service?
Well, let me clarify. Who are you selling to? Are you selling to the concept to a VC, or are you selling it to an actual chain to implement? And what are the moving parts?
Good question. So these locations are usually run by regional franchise operations, but then eventually the brand or the parent company which owns the brand kind of owns the IT and the service, and this being a front-facing technology to the customers, not everything is at the liberty of the individual location owners or the regional operators of franchise. So it is corporate of the brand eventually. Yeah, because they are very particular about front facing, customer facing side.
Because they have to be that airtight. If they're going to
Correct.
to adopt a product, they have to, and especially franchises. So you've chosen a space that is very exciting potentially, but like you said, the sales cycle is that much longer because they may pilot your project, right,
Correct.
at one or two locations. That would be a huge win for you, but don't venture to try to get an entire chain into the buy-in, right? What you would do, and I would encourage you to start off with, is start conversations, build excitement. Don't have them be, the catalyst to any sort of forward moving momentum. Like if they say yes, then you're a success. If they say no, you're done. No, there's so many different ways you can start excitement and build within your customers of their customers. So they're not your ideal customers. It's the people that demand your service to make their lives easier. So the people who, like me, are driving through. I need this because I want my coffee faster. I want my burger hot and my fries not soggy, right? Your problem is you're solving it for the customer, not. And then if you have enough conversations like this, they can't not pay attention to it. They have to try it out, right? Because it's what their customer demands. So see, identify who your customer is. Right now you're thinking franchises are my customer, but in fact, everybody who goes to these franchises are your customer. You want to use them as your amplifier and your noise makers for the people who make the decisions. So wherever you start these conversations, win with them, and they can't, not to get political, but we are experiencing this in our everyday reality, Ottawa over there. They have to pay attention. They can't not. So you don't have to just win with the people who are signing the checks. Win with their customers who are paying them.
Awesome. Yeah, great idea. Thanks for your
Thank you. Good.
Any other questions?
I have a question here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm like multitasking.
What's your name?
Sorry, my name is Nikisha.
Hi, Nikisha.
People do call me Nikki, but I just gave you my full name. Okay, so I do a service-based business.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to see if there's probably an easier way for me to kind of really hone in on my buyer's journey. Like I'm aware of like using things like Honeybook and whatnot, but I really believe in that, how do I say that old school vibe where I'm writing everything out first, or actually just knowing exactly what I want and seeing what applications are tailored towards me. So I'm a certified life coach. I'm also a licensed financial advisor. So I kind of couple the two, where essentially I am trying to encourage people to move from that hustler mindset to that business ownership, but really tying it back to finance. So if you're not really, good in your personal finances, it's going to be very hard for you to build wealth in your business. But I'm also realizing that a lot of people are not even there yet. So my thing is like, I'm just at that point where it's like, what am I supposed to be creating? Like, I just feel like I'm just like a free for all. I don't know if that's okay. But then it's into place where I don't know. I just really don't know. I'm doing well, but I'm like, if I was more intentional, what would that look like?
I love that you're using my words. Intentionality, yes. Especially in the financial advising space, you are competing against the big box banks that are literally trying to take you out and take your shine away when there's so much utility for your role. I think because the general public isn't educated on what the options are out there, we have to cut the noise. Compliance is going to kill us, right? But I think there is a real organic way that you can start these conversations, and you never lose when you add value and help your clients out. And in your space, I know for a fact that you spend a lot of time educating. Do that more. If you educate and no banker or no individual is going to take the time to educate me on how to build, you know, a spreadsheet for my what is it that you start with, like a cost,
well, needs analysis. Yes.
Needs analysis. That's what it is, right?
Yes.
But consumers are so, especially the younger demographics, right? Parents are a great audience for you, because teaching you know, financial responsibility and arming a parent and securing a child's future and educating them, empowering them. I have many, well, not many, but a few clients who are taking this to the bank, right? They're contingent on educating the future of their kids, because so many people, and you know the stats more than I, are coming up in life short and not knowing how to get ahead, you know, when there's so much working against us. Your role as a financial planner is very exciting in this time, truthfully. I wish, and that's one of my spaces, that I have a real, you know, want to be disruptive with, because I see the truly injustice of the bullies out there that are trying to take the utility out of what the financial advising space is, and not sharing the options that are out there, right? And we don't have to get into, you know, how your money might go in a bank versus sitting down and personalizing it with a financial advisor. So I think there's many opportunities you have, but stick with educating your clients. It's not falling on deaf ears. The more you do that, the more you resonate and see and set yourself apart for the difference that you make. Do that.
I want to thank you, because it's like I knew that, but I think what I was stuck on was, do I need a system? Like, but I think that what you just said was educating in itself is what's gonna
existing clients will be referrals. Then you get out there for people who don't know, who are like hungry to be like, why am I not making a difference? What is there out there? Right? People don't know what allies you are, and literally your job truly is a professional handholder, right? You educate and you build and instill, you know, comfort that you can empower an individual to take things into their own hands. So I wish you all the best. It's a really interesting space that you're in. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one last question. Anyone else? If not, then
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Again, Ms. Gladys, again, I just want I want her to distinguish between social media and digital marketing. I know what social media is, but I'm not really understanding digital marketing.
Social media, yeah, I should have clarified. Social media can fall underneath digital marketing. It's a form of digital marketing. It's the platforms that they take the form of. So digital marketing is any way to get your message on the World Wide Web. Social media marketing is one. Google ad campaigns is another. Email marketing is a form of digital marketing too, right? It's just a little bit of an umbrella. I should have realized that might cause a little bit of confusion. It's an umbrella for which different tactics and strategies stem from. Social media, again, we had shared the growing amount of platforms. The main ones are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're the major I'm just going to say it. They're the OGs of the social world. Okay. And then there's the newer ones that are more video based. Everybody who's is chasing the TikTok rabbit, because they're growing in such increments that are uncomparable. The growth in the last 2 years for TikTok is like the last 10 years for Facebook and Instagram condensed, right?
Okay.
So video is another powerful tool when it comes to marketing your businesses, right? But be sure you have a good handle on what your messaging is before, again, you go out sharing 10 different messages to Sunday about what your brand stands for. Be very careful about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Victor, I saw you raised your hand. Do you have a quick question?
Yeah, I do. Just a quick question. Thanks, Serena. So Victor from Bookstop here from My Ride 901. Influencers. Any thoughts on influencers? How to engage them? Value? we're kind of looking at that and not really sure what we're getting into.
Okay, can you give me a little bit of background? Are you an auto shop, a repair shop, a body shop?
Well, My Ride 901 is a mobile app that helps you organize any receipts you have for your vehicles. So if you've ever had to dive into a flat file folder and figure out, a receipt, let's say you're selling your vehicle or something, we provide everything on your mobile phone, your complete vehicle history. And we provide the ability to share it with other people as well. So yeah, it's a B2C app. We're in the process of trying to grow it, and we're looking at like influencers as one of our channels that we might use. What are your thoughts on that?
I have a few thoughts that I'm hoping to dovetail off of each other. Influencers are always an opportunity to be quite impactful. I will caution though, because it's such a new concept. It's a bit of the Wild West. There's no form of qualifying or validating their utility. Like you have, I think the most recent one I've heard was like one of the Kardashians said that they would move and increase your followers or sell more products. And I think it was a scam. There's a lot of influencers that have inflated stats and metrics and they're over promising, under delivering. So be careful why you're enlisting an ambassador, right? Influencer.
Influencer, yeah.
Right, and be very specific about their mandates. That if they are the ones that are more worth their while are the ones that guarantee a certain outcome, right? A lot of influencers, they have the optics of, wow, we are very popular. We have maybe there's even ways that you can skew levels of engagement, right? Have them walk through a demo and perhaps a case study of how and what makes them effective. And then this is another litmus, I would say. Have them come up with the how and the creative concept and strategy for how to move the needle for your brand, not have it come from you, because then you leave yourself open for them to say, well, that was your idea, so it's just the idea that's not working. Put the ownership on them or the responsibility on them to be creative with how they feel your product or service, right, can be impacted positively in listing or contracting them, because at the end of the day, you're paying their bill. So in short, affiliates can be very effective, especially when it comes to new products and retail products, food and beverage, because we don't have the ability to taste and smell. We're limited with our senses buying online. We enlist ambassadors to try our products out, to be the eyes, nose, and and taste buds of our on behalf of audiences we're trying to reach. With your particular product, you'd have to have the ambassador try it for a certain amount of time, and then again, that cycle of experience is not just one time. You'd have to collect and see when I might need this, how quickly can I get the information, right? So it's a different set of parameters that you would be mapping out for, and then qualifying that an affiliate is the way to go. I think there's other ways I would explore first to try to get my brand and my name out there.
Excellent. Yeah, I really like your point about getting the influencers or whomever to come up with the content.
Yes, hold them accountable. Absolutely, yeah. Hold them accountable, because a lot of them are very flashy and they show numbers, but it's like, how does that relate to me? So especially with businesses, I get very defensive for budgets and again, bootstrapping a company, right? You want to grow without getting taken advantage of. So there's a lot of tools out there. Just make sure that we're being wise about it.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.